hello, and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. You've already seen my new chair. I'm Matt Miller. Joining me today, again, is Justin McGovern and intern Tones. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
We're
It's
doing
time to
Justin's
talk about
favorite division and three of his least favorite teams of all time. Justin, do you want to care to tell everybody what we're talking about today?
We're talking about the AFC East. We're currently in the series where we're diving through all 32 NFL teams, and today the journey takes us through the AFC East, a division that the Bills have run for a few years now. And yeah, Matt, how about you tell the people what we're about?
We here at Updog Sports Talk love to stick up for the little guy. We were founded on that principle. We got tired of seeing the 1% of the top athletes talked about. The 1%, top 1% of teams talked about. We want to stick up for the Miami Dolphins of the world and the Bills of yesteryear. Ironically, we're actually starting the show with a team that has a lot of Super Bowls, but we like to talk about like the UTRGV Vaqueros.
Oh no!
Screw that one up. Streak is over of the clean.
the Wyoming Cowboys. You know, all
Bowling Greens. We're a big Bowling Green show.
Yeah, since intern Tony's on, we got a shout out to Miami Redhawks as well.
Yes. But we do talk about the top teams too. We just give everybody love. So sit back, relax, enjoy, or if you are a fan of a team in the AFC East, don't enjoy 3/4 of this. So getting started with that, the team with the most Super Bowl wins in,
recent history?
Recent history. The New England Patriots, which is funny because I actually did like a whole thing on Ty Law back in '98 and him and Sean Jefferson. Like I went in on this deep dive. Like that can be a nostalgia thing for another episode. You remember those '90s uniforms with like the oversized New England Patriot on the shoulder?
Yeah,
they need to bring that back.
Cool logo. Yeah, bring that logo back.
Yeah. Give him hands and have him reach out to catches because they're not. Stephon Diggs selling drugs on a boat off the coast. That was reported earlier.
That's how we lead off. That's how we lead their off-season moves off. Oh man!
They brought in Stephon Diggs. He ended up being on a boat selling drugs to young women, and who knows if he's going to play? They've said as of right now that he's going to play. They brought in a fellowman from Minnesota from years past, Garrett Bradbury. They brought in Morgan Moses. They brought in like a smart player, Josh Dobbs. They brought in Milton Williams from Philly, Super Bowl hero. Harold Landry from Tennessee. Robert Spillane from Las Vegas, Carlton Davis from Detroit. Brought in some other guys too, but those are the main guys that they brought in. Travion Williams, the professor. Sad to see him leave Cincinnati, but he is here also. Where I want to talk about this team is 2025 NFL Draft. And I'm going to rewind this 1 year. They got their quarterback in Drake May. Now we can fast forward back to this year. They drafted Will Campbell. So they now have four first-round offensive linemen. They just don't have any receivers. That's the thing. Like they brought in Will Campbell. They did get Kyle Williams, which is kind of funny because like in this division, Kyle Williams is known as a defensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills. But they brought in Kyle Williams, but that's really their only receiver that they brought in from the draft. They did bring in Travion Henderson, so it looks like they want to run the ball quite a bit. They still have Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. Like I said before, they brought in Travion Williams. They went hard on filling depth for this offense. But defensively, low-key, that was one of the things that was not a strength of theirs at all. I thought they were going to go with Travis Hunter. Those plans went elsewhere. Bringing in Milton Williams shores up the up front because you still have Christian Barmore, Harold Landry. He's going to get after the quarterback. But they don't have an elite pass rusher. That's one thing they're still missing. But when you look at their secondary, did you know their secondary is really good, Justin?
Yeah, I knew their secondary was pretty strong. That was their strength last year. They were pretty good against the pass, where they ran into trouble with stopping the run. So you can kind of see where they were kind of trying to address that a little bit. Yeah, there's still some gaps to figure out. The defense, like you said, wasn't quite as good as they hoped last year, but I still feel like they've got a lot of good pieces on here. And yeah, you know, getting back to the offense a little bit, it's I think Travion Henderson was huge at running back. That was a good move. They're really deep at running back too. You know, Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson's the 1-2 punch. They have Antonio Gibson. He can kind of contribute out of the backfield catching passes. Undrafted free agent Lan Larison was once a Wrangler. He is a guy who I thought was a major steal in this draft, and they got him with this team. And it looks like he's already moving up the depth chart a little bit, so he can end up being an impact guy. Yes. It'll be fun to see what he does in preseason. But like you said, the receiver is kind of where I draw my attention to and wonder what are they going to be able to do here. Like Stephon Diggs is also we can put aside the off the field stuff for a moment. Let's get back on the field. His production is dipped, and he's coming off a torn ACL. Like that is a lot of risk in what you are hoping is going to be your top guy for your young quarterback. And I just wonder when they're going to change their draft strategy because they keep trying to attempt to hit on these mid-round guys. And you're looking at this, you know, you see Jalen Polk has not taken off yet. And now you're trying the same thing with Kyle Williams from the other side of Washington. Kyle Williams is a guy I liked a lot, so like I think it could work out, but it's just at some point I want to see them get a top guy. They have not done that, but I also can't complain about the draft moves they made because they did address the offensive line. That was most important. And then they got themselves a good running back as well, one that can contribute out of the backfield, make Drake May's job a little bit easier. So, Tony, I'll throw it to you. What are your thoughts on what the Patriots did this year?
You know, I think they're starved for wide receiver talent, and that's been the case for the last couple years, you know. And with Vrabel coming in, you know, we know his style of play, right? Strong defense, run game, pound the rock. So, you know, it sounds like they're building around that. And, you know, that with as deep of a running back, the running back field, I'm blanking on the word. Crew? Their crew? Their running back room.
We used all the terms of that one there. Well,
gosh. Eventually we made our way. You know, they still have some guys with gas in the tank. You know, Ramondre Stevenson, he's been pretty solid. You know, he could maybe pop off this year a little bit. I don't know.
What I want to see them, I mean, I just pulled up the list of wide receivers that are out there. Keenan Allen is free. You can bring him in. Amari Cooper, you can bring him in. He didn't really do a whole lot in Buffalo, but, I mean, you can at least get your corners ready for what Buffalo has. Gabe Davis is still out there. He's a name that has come up now a few shows. Nelson Aguilar, say what you want about him, he still gets NFL contracts, so he can play his way onto this team, especially with what they got. DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, there's still quite a few names out there. Wait, is this? Yeah, this is this year. We're good.
Boyd could be a good move for him.
Yeah, I mean, like, if they don't address the wide receiver room, which I don't know what Robert Kraft's deal is with not paying receivers. Like, you bring in one guy. Ooh. But, like, I don't think, outside of Randy Moss and Tim Brown, I don't think they have had great receivers. Nothing to write home about, you know? Even tight ends, like, you have Hunter Henry, but now you have Austin Hooper, too. And, like, Austin Hooper, I wouldn't consider to be the same as Jonnu Smith that they had a couple years ago. I mean, like, they had a good tight end duo. It looked like this team was going to be pretty good. You can see what they're trying to do to bring it all back, and they did have to tear it down to the studs. They have... I don't think they should have moved on from... who was their coach last year?
Mayo?
Yeah. I don't think they should have moved on from Gerard Mayo. But bringing in Mike Vrabel,
I didn't really understand the point of that. Like, why did you do this whole thing, firing Bill Belichick, promoting this guy because you thought he was promising, and then you only give him 1 year? What are we doing? Rookie quarterback. You tore it down to the studs. Like, what was he supposed to do? There was no expectations last year. That was absolutely silly to me that they just did that to him.
Maybe it was always kind of an interim play. If he did great, even better. But if not,
I think the
you got a
time
fall
to
guy.
move on. I think last year the time to move on for Bill Belichick was the right time. But I think doing a more extensive search, because you can't just keep firing coaches and hiring new ones. It's not that simple. You're still paying Gerard Mayo. You just gave a bunch of money to Mike Vrabel. Like, you have Josh McDaniels. Say what you want about him as a head coach, but offense coordinator, dude knows his stuff. He's one of the top offense coordinators in the NFL, and you're paying him a pretty penny too. So, like, you can't just keep firing staff just because you don't like the direction or whatever. Like, I feel like 2 years is kind of planting the seed on accuracy on what you have as a coach. Unless they completely lose the locker room and the players are just flooding into your office and be like, this guy needs to go right now.
Yeah, unless you get like an Urban Meyer situation. Like,
Yeah. I want to say that Drake May is going to have a good season, but like he doesn't really have anyone to throw the ball to. We don't know if Stephon Diggs is going to play. Maybe they randomly trade for Terry McLaurin, but like if they do that, they're going to have to give up not just a bunch of draft picks that are like going to be very helpful in this rebuild, but they're probably going to have to get rid of one of their young, good players in order to also get McLaurin. So I think that's off the table. They're just not ready to compete just yet. They're almost there. They have like a handful of things they got to do, and they have to make sure that they get the young players developed. But one of the biggest needs they have is receiver. Maybe they were just banking on T. Higgins not getting a contract, and then where they were going to give him all this money. But that didn't happen. Your backup is Stephon Diggs, and that's it. Like, I would have signed 6 receivers to minimum deals and been like, all right, fight for a spot. I don't know what to tell you.
We'd end up in the same spot, though, yeah? Like, who's going to be the wide receiver one, you know? And for a developing quarterback, you kind of need... They almost rely on that wide receiver one to kind of fill in some of the gaps. And so, you know, with how, you know, borderline atrocious their offense was last year, I mean, they have a lot of, you know, they have a lot of room to grow.
Yes. I do think they have the right young core. They're working on the offensive line. They have a solid quarterback. I wouldn't say he's the best in the world, but I think he's very serviceable. You have a really good young secondary. Now go get a pass rush and a couple of receivers, and you got yourself a team. Robert Kraft, what are we doing? There's a reason why you picked fourth in last year's draft, and more than likely can probably say that you're probably going to be picking somewhere around 1 to 12. We can just move on to the Jets. Justin's least favorite team of all time. Now that Tom Brady's retired, the Jets are now Justin's least favorite team of all time. Where careers go to die. They just paid $200 million to their young core, $100 million to Garrett Wilson, $100 million to Sauce Gardner. They lost Aaron Rodgers, but really was that a loss?
Well,
Did they ever really have him?
They kicked him to the curb. That's what happened there.
You can see they're trying to get an offensive line, but they have Justin Fields trying to make a comeback, Tyrod Taylor trying to make a comeback, Adrian Martinez maybe, Brady Cook maybe. No, the ball is going to be in Justin Fields' hands. If Justin Fields can repeat anything he did in Chicago, I think this team can probably finish middle of the pack at best. Your second best receiver is Josh Reynolds or Alan Lazard. That's a flip of the coin. You get Armand Membu, really good right tackle. You got Alu Fashanu last year. You brought in John Simpson, I think, last year. Elijah Vera Tucker's still there. You bring in Mason Taylor as your tight end. Breece Hall's still got a lot in the tank for him. But this team's identity is defense. Will McDonald they took in the first round a couple years ago. They brought in Byron Cowart and Derek Noddy. You got Quinton Williams. Jermaine Johnson is on the pup, but, I mean, he was a first-round pick. Sauce Gardner, first-round pick. You bring in Andre Sisco, and you still have Michael Carter II. I mean, it's getting a little thinner in the secondary. I don't think they have as much depth on defense as they had a couple years ago. But, I mean, the Jets are just another team where I'm like, where are we going with this?
Yeah, and we saw that as soon as they fired Robert Saleh last year, we saw this defense fall off a cliff.
Oh, yeah.
They fell apart pretty bad. Now, obviously, brought in another defensive-minded head coach, so...
Not just a defensive-minded head coach, Justin. One of the best defensive minds in recent history, along with a really good defensive coordinator in Steve Wilkes. I think this team has a good coaching staff. I just don't think they're run from the top well at all. You're in a huge market that is very passionate, that is very strict on their players, that taxes the hell out of these players. It's hard to succeed in New York, no matter which team you're on. But I feel like it's 10 times harder to succeed as a New York Jet. And that's because they're not run well. All attention is always on the Jets. Everybody, I think, at this point is waiting for the Jets just to do something. They've spent all this money over the past however many years. Seems like they just dump a bunch of money on defense and hardly do anything on offense. They screwed up Mark Sanchez and have been trying to find a franchise quarterback since then.
It's been a long list, by the way. The last time they really had truly competent play is what, like Chad Pennington?
No, they had Mark Sanchez. He took them to the AFC Championship.
Yeah,
game
he did.
A couple
He
years
did
in a
take
row.
them there, but I mean that was mostly the ground and pound offense. He just kind of had to operate a little bit, but yeah, I know, he did a solid job. Receivers, you mentioned the careers go to die. I mean, outside of maybe the occasional receiver here and there, this has been where receivers' careers go to die.
Yes.
It's been a tough environment, and you look at the offensive line too. Like, I mean, at some point, their offensive line has got to get it together. Like they have invested a lot of resources into this without much success at this point. So you have to think that with another first round pick being used in the offensive line, like surely there's no way it can be worse than what it was last year. But we will see on that one. It's just kind of an interesting spot that the Jets are in because now 2023 and 2024 where they're all in years and they didn't even make the playoffs. Now you're in the aftermath of that.
Yes. And I just don't see handing the keys to Justin Fields and say, go win us a Super Bowl. I don't think that's a logical thing to do. I don't mean to pick on Justin Fields. It's really not his fault. He just got here. But, like, is Justin Fields really the best you could do? You couldn't have... I mean, bring in Kirk Cousins. I mean, do something.
To be fair, it seems like Atlanta's kind of holding them hostage right now. They're like, no, you're not leaving, dude. But, I don't know. It kind of feels like this year is almost a bridge year a little bit.
I mean, are they in the Arch Manning sweepstakes? Like, are they looking at Arch Manning already, saying this is our savior? This is the guy that's going to turn our franchise around. I feel like that's a little pathetic to start this early.
Justin Fields did all right in Pittsburgh last year. He had a pretty solid, 3-4 games. But it's a taste, It's do or die at this point for him. Either he's an NFL starting quarterback or he isn't. And I think that alone should kind of give them a little bit of an edge. And then, you look at Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. That could be a pretty dynamic trio. Now, I don't want to, I'm not the highest on the Jets. I don't know that anyone is really, but it kind of makes sense to me that they brought him in. He's dual threat.
And he does have familiarity with Garrett Wilson too from college, so you got that little factor working with him. At least he has a good connection with his number one receiver. That's gonna be the guy you're mostly throwing to, because again, unless you get a breakout from like Malachi Corley or something, like you don't really have much else at the position at the moment.
Xavier Gibson, maybe. I mean, he was all over Hard Knocks, but like,
yeah, but I mean, how long? I don't know. It's been a couple years for him now. Mason Taylor will be good eventually, but tight ends usually it takes a year for them to get going. So you have that in development kind of too. I mean, Fields' mobility is going to help them in spots if they let him. But, man, it's just a tough position to be in.
It looks like the identity of the team is just, we have a bunch of guys who can get after the quarterback. So, like, as long as we can stay healthy there, them mixed with Sauce Gardner, Andre Sisco, and Michael Carter II can get the job done on defense. And on offense, it's going to be a lot of like read options, a lot of play actions, a lot of running the football. And I don't know, I mean, they got Donovan Edwards, but like they're not that deep at running back. Like we see a lot of teams that are pretty deep at running back, and this is not a deep team.
Tony looked like he had something to say.
Yeah, when you look at, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, if either of them go down, the team's in trouble.
Yeah.
And
they're
that's
instantly in the Arch Manning sweepstakes at that point.
Yeah, it's precarious. So, maybe I talked myself off of them a little bit there.
there's not much else to say about the Jets. I think at this point, a lot of people have them as cellar dwellers. Speaking of cellar dwellers, since Dan Marino left, the Miami Dolphins have done nothing except for make Ricky Williams retire and smoke weed.
Well, and remember, they pop champagne every time every time everyone takes their first loss. So you have that as well. Which, by the way, shout out to the NFL trying to add 18 games so the Dolphins can forever hold on to that once they get to that point.
Yeah. The Dolphins are a team that I've wanted to see more from them since they got Tua. And I do think that a lot of people have wanted to see more from this team. By the way, they brought in Pharaoh Brown. You remember Pharaoh Brown? Justin? Name should sound familiar to you.
Why does that name sound... Remind me.
He was, I'm pretty sure he was an Oregon wide receiver. I'm losing my mic here. Pretty sure he was an Oregon wide receiver. And now he's at tight end. Oh my gosh. Going down.
So, okay. So I'll take over for a moment while you figure out your situation. Please mute yourself and figure it out. Oh my gosh. We have Mike dismantling on camera right now. What
and
is
it just
going
keeps
on?
going downhill.
It just keeps undoing itself.
They didn't really make any impact free agent pickups. I mean, I do like that they got James Daniels because they desperately needed offensive linemen. But, Minkah Fitzpatrick is somehow back. They actually traded back for him after, they traded him to the Steelers for years and now traded back for him. So that's kind of a wild move. But otherwise, they mostly brought in a lot of depth at certain spots. But it felt like they didn't have the cap space to make any impact additions.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in the biggest names are Nick Westbrook-Akine, I think is how you say it. James Daniels at left guard for Pittsburgh, but that's from an offensive line in Pittsburgh they don't like to talk about. Brought in Zach Wilson, so I guess if Tua goes down with another concussion, they have another guy that can fail. Brought in Alexander Madison, who comes with some experience. Willie Gay Jr. comes with some experience. They traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick. They brought in Artie Burns. They're trying. You can see they're trying. They brought in so many guys, and one of the best things that they've done is when they drafted Kenneth Grant. When Christian Wilkins left to go to Vegas, what you want to say it?
You know what school he went to?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go
It was
ahead.
Michigan.
He was waiting for that one.
I think Grant has the intangibles to fill the shoes that Christian Wilkins left. I mean, Christian Wilkins was not just a big locker room guy. Like he joked around a lot. Like he was what you thought of as a defensive lineman, a guy who jokes but gets the job done. Kenneth Grant can fill those shoes. They brought in Jonah. Do you know how to say it, Justin?
No, I don't know how to say it. The offensive lineman out of Arizona, he was a nice pickup there in the second round. Some people even thought he could go.
Savanea?
That might be close. But yeah, he was a guy in the second round who maybe was someone that people thought could even go in the first round. So that was a good draft pickup, and I was finally, it's about time you guys did something on the offensive line, because that has been their major issue for years here. It's been they haven't been able to protect Tua, and we continue to see Tua in this tough situation here where, it's scary to think he could be a hit from being out of the NFL.
Yeah, not just for the season, but forever. And I think that's why they're so deep at quarterback. They brought in Zach Wilson. They drafted Quinn Ewers, which I think he probably could have gone like fourth or fifth round. I think that would have been a.
I think that was actually like a pretty good steal. Like,
Yeah.
you could actually end up shaping a future around 7th round pick Quinn Ewers. Like, he has the upside to be able to be really good. Like, I don't know what exactly happened last year, why everything seemed off for him in the offense, but he's played good in big moments. Like, so he's a guy that could really turn out to be better than expected out of a 7th round pick. Like, you could end up making a future out of this.
And you know they took the round before?
Who?
Ollie Gordon, the second from Oklahoma State. Guy in his junior year who lit college football on fire, and everyone thought his senior year was going to be even better. Took a little bit of a step back, but I think the talent's still there, and I think if there's one guy who can get at least the run game going is the former run game coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers, Mike McDaniel. I love Mike McDaniel. I think he's a whole vibe. He's Miami. He's what you think of in modern day Miami. Like, not when you think of Miami, you think of the '80s and everyone's coked out. But like modern day Miami is Mike McDaniel, and I think he's also a guy on the hot seat. I don't want him to get fired, but like the sun is setting pretty quick on Mike McDaniel here, and if he can't get it figured out, somebody else will eventually within the next 50 years. So, but he's a guy who can get Ollie Gordon going alongside Achane. Tyreek Hill in and out of the news. House burnt down, and then he's got another baby mama. So
I mean, he may actually have a few this offseason. You know, we know how busy he's been getting, so he has probably about 3 or 4 more this offseason, I'm sure.
I just don't like the group of receivers they have behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
That is one of the best duos in the NFL for sure, but yeah, they definitely lack depth behind those two. And we're starting to see now, like, are we getting to the point where, because Tyreek Hill's he obviously, his main threat is speed, but he's made himself a good career because he's also a good route runner and everything like that on top of his speed. But when you're starting to see him get that age where the speed is starting to slow down a little bit, you can see that he's less of a threat. Like, now, I think we're almost hitting the point where he's no longer that guy who's going to bust for 200 yards in a given game if you're not running the right defense. Like, he doesn't provide that anymore. Jalen Waddle may actually be their best receiver at this point.
Oh, 100%. He's one of the top receivers in the league and very underrated. Goes under the radar in Miami. They just need production from Tyreek Hill, and I would say probably should sign another receiver. Whether, again, yet another episode with Gabe Davis, bringing him up, but Gabe Davis would be really good here. I think that would be a good target. They got Darren Waller out of retirement. I think if he can get going with everything and up to speed, I think he would be a good target.
Yeah, how we have not brought that up right now? They had to, by the way, they had to trade the Giants for him, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's get Tony.
Fitzpatrick. Go ahead.
Let's get Tony's thoughts on the Dolphins.
You know, they're a pretty uninspiring looking team when you really look at it. I kind of have a little bit of a soft spot for them myself. You know, I think just talking soccer, you know, like Inter Miami did a collab with the Miami Dolphins, and you know, their kits are typically pink, but you know, they did a teal with the orange, and it looked so sick. You know, so like, it's a organization that has a lot of history. You know, but is Tua gonna go the distance? I don't know. You know, like you said, he's one hit away. You know, and then at that point, you're kind of you're in the same conversation as, the Jets.
But I mean, looking at the Miami Dolphins and knowing how they operate, they're also probably 2 games out of the playoff race already. So like, their upside is like cusp of playoff appearance. Their downside is Arch Manning sweepstakes. So
Yeah.
it's too big of a gap. Like, the Bengals, you know what you have. The Bills, you know what you have. And yeah, I'm going with top teams, but like at least with the Bengals, they finished mid-pack, so like that they're a better comparison. You know what you have with the Bengals. You don't know what you have with the Dolphins. You don't know what Tua is going to show up. You don't know what the defense is going to do, despite having a lot of returning production, hitting on some picks in the draft. You just don't know what some of these guys are going to do on defense. And like, outside of Waddle and Hill, are you even going to have any of the other guys hit 500 yards? Or are you just going to have 2 receivers competing for 1,500 yards? Like, I don't think that's how football is anymore. Like,
Yeah.
and that offensive line, like, they clearly haven't spent a whole lot of money. They traded Laramie Tunsil. Like, they traded, Armstead retired. Like, they don't have that anchor anymore. Like, and even with the anchor, they don't have anyone else.
It feels like
of it.
every time they take like a step forward, there's another step back, and they just can't seem to get that figured out. I think on the positive, like I see some good pass rusher here. There's Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson,
Chop!
Bradley Chubb, Chop, and then at corner, one of my favorite names, Storm Duck.
You got a good safety duo on Mika Fitzpatrick and Fetu Milifonwu. Cam Smith.
That way to roll that off the tongue.
Thanks. That kind of just comes naturally. But Cam Smith, like, he was a dog at South Carolina. So like, if he kind of steps up a little bit, like, you don't have that shutdown corner anymore. You just traded away Jalen Ramsey. You got rid of Xavier Howard last year, like, and there was another corner a couple years ago that they got rid of, that was a top talent. So like, you don't really have. I mean, Storm Duck, undrafted last year. Cam Smith, second round.
Kind of putting some pressure under the feet of Storm Duck there.
Yeah, and like Artie Burns starting the season on the PUP list. He was a former first round pick. Maybe he can get something going, but like, he's not Jalen Ramsey. It's just like, you look at the roster and you can see the young core is there, but then you look at the roster from a slightly different angle and you're like, whoa, that is bad. So it's like, I don't see playoffs from them, is what I'm getting at. I think Mike McDaniel's tenure is already, the writing's on the wall.
The writing's on the wall, you say?
Super Bowl bound.
Oh no!
No,
You gotta put it over your head like the Sand People in Star Wars.
Oh no! Mad. Oh.
Back in a minute.
Multiple times in this episode.
Justin, you can go on your rant about the Bills.
All right, so the Buffalo Bills. I think we know a lot of what they have already, so actually I'm going to try not to be too long here because we know they have Josh Allen. The good news is they have all 5 offensive linemen back. Kind of went to address some depth there just in case anything were to go on. So I think that was pretty solid on their part. And I think the big thing is, you're going to still have a strong run game. Kind of figure things out with James Cook. I'm very torn in that situation just because, you're asking for money here a little early in your rookie contract. Most rookies don't get a new deal. I mean, he's not a rookie anymore, but most young guys don't get a new deal this soon. So, but he's asking for that. So now it's kind of one of those situations where they're kind of trying to set their feet a little bit because that would mess up the rest of the NFL if every rookie's asking for a new deal a couple years in. But they got some depth there. Ty Johnson, receiving back. Ray Davis is the pounding back. Frank Gore Jr. is still around as well. But the main thing here, and the elephant in the room, is going to be on the defensive side. Can the defense... I mean, the defense, usually they do a good job making plays during the season. But I think that a lot of times what we see from this unit is, can they make the plays when the moment is the biggest? And that's something that we won't be able to answer in this show, but we'll have to see how it develops as the year goes on. The hope is that Joey Bosa is that guy. That was something we talked about off camera. We had to bring it up on camera.
Now that I have my sideline reporter microphone, I think the Bills, as long as they have Josh Allen, they're gonna compete. The James Cook thing will figure itself out. I mean, you're not really gonna lose James Cook yet. Can't. You're gonna have to trade him, and then if you trade him, you're gonna get a big haul for him. Defensively, they still have Ed Oliver, one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. They brought in Joey Bosa. I mean, the last few years, have you really heard Joey Bosa's name that much?
Not like we did.
Justin's higher on Joey Bosa than I am. I don't think they have an elite pass rush, and I think that's ultimately what's going to hurt them. They did bring Tre'Davious White back.
Yeah, they brought him back. Obviously drafted a corner as well because not only was their pass rush not good enough in the playoffs last year, but the other problem they faced was the secondary struggled. Rasul Douglas is gone, so they kind of had to figure that out. They ended up drafting Maxwell Harrison and brought back Tre'Davious White. And yeah, I mean, he seems like a guy. Like, just learning all about who he is, that one's an exciting pick. And Christian Bedford, by the way, out of the 2022 draft, who would have thought that the 6th-round pick would be playing like the 1st-round pick, while the 1st-round pick would play like a 6th-round pick? But that's what happened in that draft. Christian Bedford got paid this offseason, and based on early camp reports, he is stepping it up another level. Breakout player to watch here is Cole Bishop. He kind of got forced into action late in the year, and he stepped up and played pretty solid. So now he's going to be ready to be one of the better safeties on the team.
Who were their safeties last year?
Last year...
Micah Hyde was the other one?
No, Micah Hyde was brought in late. So
anyway, no, Micah Hyde was there for like 3 years.
Yeah, but he briefly left last year and then came back for the playoffs, but really kind of just sat on the sideline for the most part. But yeah, Taylor Rapp and DeMar Hamlin were the main safeties last year.
Maybe it was 2 years ago then. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. This is very different than that secondary. Taylor Rapp, former LA Ram. Love to see him get back into starting lineup. And he's been an anchor for them. But Cole Bishop, DeMar Hamlin, I don't think that trio of safeties is as good as it was a few years ago. And I think Tre'Davious White, not the same as he was a few years ago. So they're going to rely heavily on Maxwell Harrison to be a Quinion Mitchell. They're going to need him to step up that quickly. And whether he has it in him or not this year, I don't think he can do it himself. I don't trust this defense.
I think
Josh
you're not looking at it.
Playmaker.
Yeah.
As he was last year. Yeah.
And that's kind of
the reason you can almost write the Bills in, and I say almost because there's a few scenarios where the Bills lose earlier in the playoffs. But you can almost write him in to conference championship every year.
I wouldn't put it that far, but at least maybe at least making it around, depending on when they meet up with the Chiefs, obviously.
And the Bengals.
Well, we'll see. We'll get to that one at a later date. But I think the good news is that's what Josh Allen kind of gives you when you're in a position like the Bills and Chiefs, where you're a top quarterback. Like, you almost get to go through the season with your young guys in there and kind of have them learn by fire, because really, for the most part, you can deal with Maxwell Harrison struggling weeks 2, 4, even like until mid-season. Where you need him to step up is when you get to the playoffs. That's when you want him to be fully caught on and know what he's doing. We saw the Chiefs go with that a few years ago when they went all young in their secondary, went through struggles for most of the season, and then those guys figured it out late, and they won the Super Bowl, and now they've had that unit together for a few years. I think that's what the Bills are trying to do here. We'll see how it goes. Again, though, I don't want to look past the regular season, but it's kind of all about the playoffs for this team. It's what can you do there, and is it going to just be the same story over and over again? That's kind of the big pressure point.
I didn't realize they also brought back Dane Jackson. They brought back their secondary without Poyer and Hyde. I do like what they're doing at receiver. Brought in Elijah Moore, who I would still say at this point is a promising young receiver. Maybe on the cusp of bust. Chenault, but I mean, like, you're not making him the number one receiver, so the pressure's not there. So I like that for him.
Maybe you do, though, because there isn't a clear-cut one.
Keon Coleman, I would say, is the clear-cut number one, but like,
I mean, he's more of a slot guy, but Khalil Shakir is clearly like the top target in this offense. And then you have the tight ends as well. The tight ends are heavily involved, both Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Now, Knox tweaked something the other day, so he's a little bit injured right now. We'll see. It seems optimistic he should be back in time for the season, but you got two tight ends that are going to be your guys there. And, Shakir in the slot is going to be making plays. Obviously, you're hoping that Keon Coleman takes that step forward. I think last year is a bit of a learning process for him. So you're kind of relying on that. You're relying on Josh Palmer to contribute some things here and there.
But Josh Palmer was supposed to be one of the guys for the Chargers last year, and then just, like, he had a couple flashes, but, like, not what we thought was going to happen with him. Not the trajectory that we saw from him 2 years ago. I still think this is, and no offense to Bills fans, no offense Justin, I do still think this is one of the weaker wide receiver rooms in the NFL. And, like, it's a shame because Josh Allen deserves a lot of talent around him. But receivers are a position that if they play to $100 million, they want $100 million. Like, you're not going to see too many receivers take a pay cut just to play with someone anymore. And Josh Allen deserves to have Randy Moss, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson because of, like, he's a great guy, talented quarterback, Big Ben vibes, but without, like, the problems. A guy who you could have play Bruce Wayne in a crappy version of The Dark Knight or whatever. And for Bills fans, they deserve a lot more than this group of receivers.
They've been through it.
This is their last year in their stadium. They are bringing back the red helmets for the final regular season game. If you can't do it this year, at least you have a brand new stadium to do it next year. And from the photos, it looks like it's going to be fantastic. But why not show some love to a stadium that every fan in upstate New York look forward to going to in the 80s and 90s when Jim Kelly was there. Unfortunately, they couldn't get over the hump in the 90s. Why not try to rectify that? Why not try to get Calvin Johnson out of retirement? Why not try to get, like...
Might be a
trade
few
for a
years
receiver
past
that
at this
is
point.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, the Chiefs don't have a deep wide receiver room either. And I don't know, like, how both teams are able to compete to the level they are with the receivers that they have. None of these guys.
Well,
are
I mean,
terrible.
you know how it's because the quarterbacks lift up everyone else that they have, and
Yes, but
to top it off,
these players, most of the Chiefs receivers, I wouldn't put higher than 2 on a depth chart. I just want to see more from the Bills. I want to see the Bengals lift a trophy before the Bills, but I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if the Bills lift a trophy at some point, it's well deserved. The Bills are clear-cut favorites in this division, no matter who they have on their roster. As long as Josh Allen is there and Sean McDermott is calling plays, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They're a team that can take down Patrick Mahomes. Have they? Not really, but they can. It's been the refs that have gotten in the way each time.
well, we're not going to bring up the clip of the every short yardage marker last year's game, but it's out there if you want to try to find it. But let's just, I mean, for me, I think it's on the defense for me. That's where the biggest concern is. I've said it many times in other episodes. You can hide a less top tier offense, but you cannot hide a bad defense. And we've seen time and time again in the playoffs, the Bills have not been able to. They've been able to hide their defense in the regular season, but when the playoffs have come around, especially against Mahomes and even Joe Burrow, like their defense has gotten exposed in a bad way every year. So as a Bills fan, that is my big area of concern. That's why I dove immediately to it. Because Josh Allen can hide a lot of the warts you have at receiver, but he can't hide what you have on defense, especially when he's lost multiple games where he's played a near perfect game on offense.
Yeah. Order. I can go ahead and start. Justin, we already know your order.
Bills and only Bills.
I actually think that it could be the. I'll give my scenarios and then I'll give my final one. Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, or Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets. I think that the Dolphins and the Patriots can be interchangeable, despite the Dolphins having a slightly better total roster.
I agree.
I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to go Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets.
I agree, Matt. We could interchange Miami and New England. To be a contrarian, maybe New England takes that second spot, So it would be Buffalo, New England, Miami.
I already forgot the last place team because
The Jets.
Justin, you want to throw yours out real quick?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bills. I'll go Dolphins in second, Patriots third, and then in the distant last place, the Jets.
Yeah. That Tony, it looks like you got one last.
No, just the two cursed teams in the NFL: the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets.
Yes.
Which one would you rather? Who would you rather be? A Cleveland Brown fan or a Jets fan?
At least, like with the Jets, you have history to point on, though.
I mean, the Browns had a history before they moved to Baltimore. They just got it back.
They have like 57 logos, so that's going for them.
They have one of the best running backs in NFL history. I think Myles Garrett, when it's all said and done, will be probably top 7 defensive end in history. And it's bold, but like I think
You could definitely put them
Now,
top of Browns.
now here's the thing, though. We talked about the Jets. You know who has the longest streak without a playoff win right now in the NFL, right?
Dolphins.
Yep. 24 years. 2000 AFC wildcard game against the Indianapolis Colts. This was the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game.
The Dolphins went from like perfection to Dan Marino, and Dan Marino's career was fantastic. They just couldn't get a ring. And because they went from perfection to Dan Marino perfection, it was just like, all right, well, Dolphins, like, you're going to just be bad for as long as you were good. So I want to see Miami up there. I love the Dolphins. I wish they would go back to their, like, darker teal, so the lighter teal, or at least go back to the original.
I think the older Dolphin was better too. Yeah.
Yeah. The Bills, clear-cut favorites. The Dolphins, probably the most rooted for in the division, because it's like, all right, well, now that you have the longest streak, you have a cool color scheme. You had Ricky Williams. The Jets, I think everybody's just waiting for the Jets. I don't think really many people are rooting for the Jets. And then people are just done rooting for the Patriots because of Tom Brady. So
The city of Boston has hope.
City of Boston doesn't need any more championships.
They could do without for a little bit. We have to wrap this up with our last question, which is how many playoff teams?
One.
I think we're all in agreement on that one.
Unless the Dolphins are just like all of a sudden one of the, like, Tua just becomes Josh Allen, Joe Burrow tier. They're not doing it. Like, subscribe, follow us. At Updog Sports Talk everywhere. Tell your friends about us. We don't just do football. Right now we're doing NFL. Justin is spearheading the college football campaign. And Intern Tones and I will be coming up with a plan to implement MLS coverage as the season winds down and getting into probably one of the more interesting parts of the season. So,
Yep.
a lot coming up this fall. Right now, we're just recording and posting. So for the next month or so, until both seasons starts, we're probably going to be just daily posting videos, getting teams out there for people to hear about. We'll be live this fall, so we'll catch you then. See you guys.
See ya.
I don't have a mouse. We'll just